Yes, people, hope we are all doing good. There's a lot of good young talent at Leeds United. That is one thing that we can say about this current group of players. There's a lot of good young talent, and for me, one of those players that stands out is Mateo Joseph. I've been severely impressed with him last season, having watched, you know, most of what I could of the under 21s. He is a player who stands out, and I see him as a player who can make that step up this season. I believe he will have a fairly large role in the squad next season going into the championship. So here's my analysis of the player he is, how I think he'll fit into the system, and what will happen next year with Mateo Joseph. Let's get into it. Yeah, before we get into the analysis and the clips, let's just look at Mateo Joseph. Look, this is Premier League 1 and 2 from last year. Mateo Joseph is the third top goal scorer in both leagues, combined leagues. 19 appearances, 15 goals. But this video will be more about how I think he'll play under Fark and the role he'll play. But in terms of a raw goal scorer, he's got that. He's shown that. Look at the names he's around. Really impressive goal scorer. That goes without saying. That is the baseline. But how's he going to develop his game? Let's get into that right now. Here is a list of what I believe to be his key strengths as a player. Now, finishing is obvious. We'll go into some clips just after these key strengths. We'll go into clips of what I mean by these things. But finishing, it's obvious. 15 goals. The guy knows where the goal is. The guy is excellent at picking the right position to be. The amount of goals he scores in and around the box, he can even whip them in from wider angles as well. His finishing is really good. He's a really good poacher. Pace of movement, and this is what in the Man United game, something I'm really impressed with. We've seen him transition slightly in terms of adaptability, which is also another strength down there. But his pace and his movement to make that run, that quick run. So so he'll slow it, then boom. And we saw it 3 or 4 times in the Man United game, and we'll show those in a second. And that movement can't be underestimated. It's all right being quick. It's all right being fast. But having that good movement and actually having the nous to understand how your movement can affect the build-up of a play or the style of play or lead to a goal is something I think Mateo Joseph has, and not a lot of players have that. They know where they're running to, but what can be the result? And Mateo Joseph seems to know exactly where the space is, and he exploits it with his movement. Bravery, he's that mentality. He came to England very young. The whole national thing, switching to England, I'm sure that was a hard decision. And really taking that, you see the captain's armband there, really taking 23s by storm by being that guy, being the leader in that, as someone that's recently joined in terms of the other players that have been all the way through the ranks. Real bravery. The reason these three are in yellow is because I think he's actually built on these all year. Build-up play is something I believe at the start, not necessarily struggled with, but something he didn't really focus on his play. He wanted to come and score goals. He's now adapted and believed as a footballer to make it at that top level, he might need a little bit more than to be a goal scorer. So his build-up is really good, and I'll show some clips in a minute on the Man United game where the build-up, when it isn't on long, he'll just come in short, and he's good with it. He keeps the ball moving, he'll draw fouls, he'll draw men into him, he'll take them on, he'll pass it. Real good build-up attributes for Mateo Joseph. Adaptability again. Being a striker, but now actually seemingly being tried a lot more in that left wing role. He played there a lot for England in the Championship recently. And he played there the other day against Man United and impressed me. So this is another side to his game in which is important to make that next step as a professional footballer in a first team, to be more adaptable. And chance creation. Through learning all these things on here, he's really developed a good way to create chances. Not just being the guy to finish them off, but actually being the guy in terms of his movement that can affect a chance being made, or even the guy to give an assist or create something. I've been really impressed with him in them terms. So those are the key attributes. Let's get into the clips which show those in action right now. This is the first clip I want to show, guys. That's Pascal on the ball. Now look, Mateo Joseph already. He's identified already the space in behind. So what he's done is he's quickly checked his shoulder. He did it really quickly, and he's already, as soon as he's not even got the ball under control yet, he knows where he wants to go. He's recognised where that space is. Yeah, look, as you can see right there, guys, the second Pascal has that ball in control, Mateo Joseph already knows. So what he's done is he's pushed up to drag these two and create loads of space in behind to create depth. Now, as you can see, look, he already knows. He knows exactly where he wants to go. He knows where that space is. He's identified it. Pascal is on the same wavelength as Mateo. That's what I really like. It's him in terms of his movement. He's identified that space straight away. And he's like, look, this guy's not ready. Now, boom. From that, look at the depth Mateo Joseph has created here. From that one run, he's dragged two guys close to him because, that's the space they don't want to be in. That's an uncomfortable environment for a fullback or a centre-back. Look at the depth he's created. Look at the space he's created behind the midfield for options to run into. Now, look, the touch isn't great, but we're talking about the thought here and not the execution necessarily. Now, by doing that run, look at the options. Look at all the space. Really smart play by Mateo Joseph. Really smart play. Really impressed. And here's a different example of what he can do. As you see now, Pascal, again, good little connection between these two, which is something to maybe watch. Look to that forward pass. Mateo Joseph now, slightly different position. He's tucked inside. And he's picked up this vacant space in the middle in here, showing that creative side of him. Now what happens here is he receives the ball on the half turn, drags this guy to him, draws a foul. Now if that wasn't a foul, the ball's going to Joffe. Because that spare man there has been dragged into Mateo, who's just drifted inside and picked the ball up in a brave position. He's created space in this area to attack. He's a really smart footballer. And again, this is him working well in that system. Don't get me wrong. This is part of the FARC system. This is him working well in it and using his brain to evolve his play more than just a striker, to get more chances in the team. And by doing these little things, FARC will like that. And he'll see how he can work in more than just a striker role. He can play in several roles if he's needed. Do you know what I mean? This is probably my favourite clip right here. And this is Lewis Bate on the ball. And it's the one where he gives it over. And what a ball, by the way. But let's talk about Mateo in this. Here, at this point, right here is where he starts running. This is where he's identified the space. And it's about identifying the spaces on the pitch and having the player to execute the pass. Here is where he's done it. And he's got to the ball first from this position in front of these guys. Wavelength. So from this position, and the ball goes yards over, right? From this position, and I'm talking about pace and movement here. He demolishes these guys, absolutely tears them apart and gets into that area. That pace is dangerous if used right. And that's what I mean by having the nous, which he's showing here, to use his pace right and use his movement right. But yeah, gets there first. I wish I could show you the clip of him. Guys, he's so quick. Gets there first, wins the team a corner. From nothing but a bit of smart movement and good execution from Lewis Bate. That's all it is. That's all it needs sometimes. And you have a player like that with those attributes. Got a really good talented player on your hands who can be really effective in the side. And that's what's the biggest thing for me. Look, Mateo Joseph could have come into this being a striker and said, look, I'm a number 9. I can get you goals. Problem with that is, in a system under FARC where he will have competition as a striker, it's going to be hard for him to establish himself, right, as an overall striker. So what he's done is he's adapted his game and accepted different types of roles. Because when that comes into being a team player, he's a more valuable asset because he can play different areas of the pitch, he can play different roles. FARC will love that. So that's why I think we'll see more of Mateo, because not only can he come on as a striker, or even start some games, depending on how good he does in training, how well he performs, you can also do the wing too, and he's proven that in this game. It's a game where you're a bit under the cosh and you need that burst of energy or that smart movement. He's the guy for that. Really intelligent footballer. And he's developed that recently. He's really took time to develop other parts of his game. And that's what you like to see from young players. Don't rely on just your attributes. Learn more. And that is the perfect attitude for a young player. I'm really impressed with Mateo Joseph in those certain terms. I just want to say as well, he's an excellent presser. His pressing is very good. He's got that hard desire in his game to press, and he's good at it. He doesn't just dive in. He's actually good. He anticipates what the defender's going to do, so that's a bonus as well. And this is what I like. This is what I talked about, that desire and that pace. So there's a loose pass in here, good pressing there. Is that Archie Gray? Mateo Joseph is on that ball. And what does he do when he gets this ball? Because he gets that ball there. He absolutely drives down this guy. 1v1 on the wing, does the guy, wins another corner. And that's what I like to see, the heart and desire and the pace to anticipate all these things. It's not even necessarily about being skillful. It's about anticipating where the ball is, where you want to go, and knowing the space you want to enter. And Mateo Joseph is And he's outstanding at that. That's why he scores so many goals, and that's why last season, if you check out his goals, the goals he scored, they're all in and around the box predominantly, and from tight angles, from the goalkeeper dropping it, from close 1v1s. These are all the goals he scores, and you can see that in his wing play. Now, Bark's adapting that anticipation and the pace he's got and the movement he's got, and wondering if he can play him on the wing. More opportunity on there as well. There's more options to play him. And from that performance, and it's a little snippet, don't get me wrong, I'm not getting over exaggerated. I've watched him all last season. A lot of this is from what I saw last season, where he did similar things but up front. But he's really adapting, guys, and I promise you, his build up is getting so much better. Look, quick, direct, takes him on, runs past this guy here, runs past this guy with the ball, gets right to the byline, and he wins a corner. This one, I like this, because what he does with Dan James, he received that ball in a tight pocket again. His first thought was turn and drive. Because he's realised, again, behind him is a 1v1 with this defender. Knowing that Dan James giving the ball, he also knows that Dan James is going to overlap. And that's exactly what happens. Mateo Joseph drives at this guy, but what he does, he waits and waits. And as soon as Dan James is level, he plays the ball through. And again, I think it gets crossed, but it goes to a Man United player. But these are the little build-up things I'm talking about. These are little things he's adapted and grown into his game in a matter of months. He's really worked on him, you can tell. And that's in months. Imagine a year. That's the pocket I was talking about. That's the pocket right there. And that's what I mean by waiting and executing the pass. And Dan James burns him and we get a ball. It's not a great ball into the box. You see what I mean? That's the premise. That's the idea. Look at the guys he's attracted around him. This is the final clip. Look at this. Receives the ball in this position. What does he do? What's his first thought? He has a look around and thinks, I'm going to drive into this space. This is the space I want to be in. And that's exactly what he does. Gets past them two. Easy. Now, this is the bit I like, and this is the build-up that he's really improved. He drives into this space. Then what he does is delays and delays. I'll show you. Until this guy comes across, and he's identified that. And I'll look at the space he's left these three. Look at them. These four here, and him. They're only bothered about Mateo Joseph because his positional play and his perseverance and his drive and power and pace and movement has allowed this situation to happen. And he's delayed the pass and he gives the ball to Joffin here and I think he skies it over. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see from Mateo and that's what he's done really well. He's adapting his game to benefit the team and himself and his career. So yeah, that's it. That's Mateo Joseph video. Let me know what you guys think. I think I'm really impressed with him and I like to see more. I'm looking forward to see more this year. Look, I'm not saying he's going to start every game. I'm saying in terms of impact on a game, he didn't start this Man United game and the impact he had was great. I saw some really good flashes of things in there that can adapt into a winger role. Look, I still love him as a striker. I like to see what he's doing as a winger. That will keep developing. But as a footballer, as a player, he's growing everywhere and I'm really impressed with Mateo Joseph. I can't wait to see him this year. The guy who commented a few videos ago saying, I said some bad things about him. You're totally wrong. I said nothing bad about Mateo. All I've ever done is praise him because he's a fantastic footballer. You misconcept a word I said. And that's on you. So, yeah. And that's talking about the mentality side of football, which every player who comes from youth football into men's football has to adapt mentally. That's a fact. It's a totally different pressure, a different environment. He will have to do that. I'm not saying he won't. I'm saying he will, just like every single young player coming from that. But yeah, glad I cleared that up. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all the support. As usual, you guys are absolute legends. Good times. Peace.